Well now, with the release of How to Train Your Dragon following on from the absolute monster that was Disney's Lilo and Stitch, we now have 2 live-action remakes topping the box office for the year and honestly just completely dominating it since they released. And oh lord, I hope this doesn't lead the industry into doing what I think it's gonna do looking at these numbers. And the weirdest part is, both the original animated movies in question were directed by the same people. Chris Sanders and Dean DeBlois being those directors in question, with both being involved in the remake projects in different ways too. You've got Chris Sanders returning to be the voice of Stitch right after directing The Wild Robot, which just makes me chuckle for some reason. And then you have Dean DeBlois actually directing the How to Train Your Dragon remake, for reasons that are kind of fascinating too, as in interviews he outright said he dislikes the live action remake trend. In fact, he only stepped in here as he wanted to make sure it was at least the best version it could be. An opportunity that DreamWorks gave him, but Disney didn't even consult on with Lilo and Stitch. And with that considered, the 2 movies invite a very unfortunate comparison when it comes to how one movie that did consult the original creative team and the one that didn't. For DreamWorks' How to Train Your Dragon succeeds in pretty much every way that Stitch failed. It embodied a live-action retelling of the story with the different qualities you'd be looking for from the shift in medium. Lilo and Stitch changed some stuff to fit this change too, but then changed some stuff they didn't. Like sure, Gantu makes for too many antagonists in this movie, but then at what point was this considered an opportunity to make Jumba a worse character? Also, they've already done the movie. It worked the first time. This also just sounds like Zach Galifianakis putting no effort into creating a sense of menace whatsoever too. Like, how was the animated Jumba both able to have a redemption arc whilst being more of a villain? But anyway, I've done a whole video on this number. You know it's a bad movie. It's got its highlights, like Stitch himself, and they even got the ice cream guy back. But also, they missed the point, he's meant to be a tourist. And also progressively getting further away from the center. Oh, God. But of course, there is now an element of tragedy in there too, with actor David Hikeli Kenui Bell having sadly passed away weeks after the movie's release and huge success. So as much as I hope to say he got to witness the audiences enjoy his scenes before he left us, what a horrible tragedy in amongst all of this success as well. But varied quality and having the same directors behind the originals aside, both movies have been huge hits. Lilo and Stitch has now crossed over $800 million, so just sneaking towards $1 billion. Will it get there? It's made its money back, they don't really care. Meanwhile, a bit earlier into its run, How to Train Your Dragon opened its run with an $84 million weekend and has so far already reached $113 million. And this is DreamWorks' first live-action adaptation, don't forget, which becomes even more impressive when you look at the 77% Rotten Tomatoes score. Not exactly the top tier of scores. It's no Paddington 2 for sure, but considering this is literally just the same movie everyone's already familiar with, executed differently, it's not too shabby. But that does leave me questioning, what is the point? If the best version of the movie is one that just does the original to the book, then what are we doing here? It does make me see what they were going for with the new Lilo and Stitch in trying to be different, but that almost felt different just for the sake of being different. And because it did it poorly, it only acts to give more bad reputation and ruin the magic of the original in some degree. Beyond maybe Cinderella, I'm not sure I can naturally name an animation remake that effectively changed some of its story for live action. But again, DreamWorks made a solid shot-for-shot remake on their first go, and maybe they'll have the confidence in going to some more interesting places in the sequels, or they'll just keep doing shot-for-shot in as best a visual format they can in live action. Because yes, those are coming too now. DreamWorks live action remakes? Oh yeah. At the very least, they have already announced a How to Train Your Dragon 2 before they'd even released the first one. They were confident going in. And it does leave a legit question of whether they're going to go to shot-for-shot, the animated sequel, or go somewhere else with it. It certainly would be the first time we've seen a shot-for-shot remake of a sequel. The closest we've had is, what, Mufasa? I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they took it in either direction. Considering how close the release date is, pretty sure 2027, I wouldn't be surprised if they do just remake the sequel, since the blueprint is already there. Which again, does make me kinda sad. They're doing a good job at copying a classic's blueprint, as opposed to the more mid-Disney efforts. But is that a good thing? Or is that a really bad thing? I don't know. Hello, yes, you've made it to the halfway mark of this video. Come subscribe if you haven't already. And back to the second half. Clearly, it's a hard thing to pull off because we've seen it fail so many times. But when we see one and are like, that was good, does it deserve its flowers? Or is it more like, well done, you were good because you literally copied a classic? In the case of Dragon, I do at least hugely respect Dean going, well, it's gonna be made regardless, it may as well be me. There is an integrity there that he cares about the franchise, and it shows in the finished movie trying to still hold on to the magic of the original. That is, in essence, leaps and bounds ahead of what Disney does. Weirdly, this movie already has a lot more authenticity in that respect compared to any Disney remake. Sure, we couldn't exactly get the Snow White director, that's Walt Disney, who is dead if you weren't aware, and judging by the results of the remake, maybe that's for the best. Because yes, in the midst of the Lilo and Stitch success, I do hope Disney don't forget that, oh yeah, Snow White is still a thing that happened. Oops, because oh boy did it. And if that Stitch merch wasn't flying off of the shelves, I have no doubt that there would be a more definitive cancellation of the remakes. Just before their biggest remake hit, they hit their biggest disaster, and everyone watched. That's apparently a theme. Pixar had their best and worst recently, and now Disney's doing the same. The movie that tried to please everyone ended up being liked by no one. Poetic. Just a bad movie. Who'd have thought trying to pull the story from a 1937 movie may be difficult to do? Kind of funny to say that when Wicked has also just been a massive success. But that's the thing. That wasn't billed as a Wizard of Oz remake. That's a completely different story. And Snow White just seemed to try to do both at once. Yet again, the curse of the remake. You're damned if you change core elements, and if you don't and it turns out good, you've just kind of done the same movie again. It's a double-edged sword and it's hard to win. That was the point where Disney could have gone, you know what, maybe we should call it a day on this. And initially, yeah, they pulled the Tangled remake within days practically. Things were looking good. But no, now we have a big success for them, mainly based on how merchandisable the character is. And, now to boot, the rival studio just upped them at their own game, making the value of remakes higher, with a movie from the former Lilo and Stitch director of all people, whilst the other voices the blue guy. Weird. So prepare for The Rock as live-action Maui, and presumably Stephanie Beatrice leading a live-action Encanto. All the while Strange World is just sitting there with all of its problems, just waiting for a remake so it can reach its full potential. Actually, I don't hate that. I've always been a fan of that sentiment in general. Remake flawed movies with good ideas. But that's just not where the money is it? As for DreamWorks, I have a bad feeling they're going to attempt more beyond How to Train Your Dragon. And like, is there anything else in their catalog where that even makes sense? What, we're getting a Boss Baby live action? With a CGI'd mouth baby? Kung Fu Panda done like Lion King? Madagascar done like Lion King? Already, though I personally don't trust the sources, there are rumors that Shrek 5 may go the Smurfs route of entering the real world, and I really hope that that is as bogus as I think it is. I just hope that there is a point where we get more sensible with these remakes and not just plain silly. What I do know is that DreamWorks are off to a solid start with this HTTYD movie, even with my artistic reservations considered, and Disney need to have a long, hard look at themselves. Will they follow the sequels, or do something else? Is a Lilo and Stitch 2 coming? I did enjoy the Lilo and Stitch 2 movie, and it's, Oh, and apparently, yes, that's already in early development. Yay. I also heard Gantu may end up in that to redeem themselves to the fans, but that just tells me that the fans have invented that part of the story. It's a bit wishy-washy. But hey, worked with Sonic. We're working on it with Shrek 5 designs. Maybe we can push them to Gantu as well. It's not on my priorities. I'm already done with this rebooted franchise. Let's hope the state hands Lilo back at some point. Let's just say that. And as for the dragons, I can't wait to see what they do next. And also, I'm bracing for it. One way or another, it's a guaranteed future of ours, all because the live-action remakes are dominating the box office. Of course they are. For now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell me your thoughts. Where do you think it's going? What would you predict for DreamWorks and Disney going forwards? This is our life now. I'd love to hear all your thoughts and more, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!